Okay guys, today's video is about equations and how to solve them. So here's an equation, and before we continue, what makes an equation an equation? Of course, the equal sign. And an equation could be something simple like 2 times 4 equals 8. This right here is an equation because all you need is an equal sign. But some equations have letters in them. We call that a variable. That is your variable. What does it stand for? We don't know. It's a mystery. And that's what we got to do to figure out. We got to figure out what S is. And what we have here is S is divided by 5 gives you 15. Okay? The way I solve equations is I consider it like a scale. So let me draw a scale real quick. Okay, so when you have a scale, you got to make sure that both sides are balanced out. And the middle part of the scale, I consider the equal sign. And if you add 5 pounds to one side of the scale, keep in mind that if you don't add it to the other side, it becomes unbalanced. So what you want to do is, if you do anything on one side, you must also do it to the other in order to balance out things. So keep that in mind when you're solving this equation. It's going to have this scale on the side for reference for later. So the first step I do in solving equations is cut it into two parts. Pretty much the middle part of this scale. Think of it that way. And what you're trying to do here is isolate the variable. That means you want the letter S all by itself. So let's pretend it's got COVID and you want to get rid of it. I'm sorry, you want to get rid of the 5 and just have S by itself on that left side. If you look right here, okay, that 5 is dividing S. S over 5, that stands for division. All right, division. Sorry, that's kind of sloppy, but you get the point of what I'm trying to write. So in order to get rid of it, you need to do the opposite, which is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply by the exact same number, 5. But whatever I do to one side, remember, if I were to multiply this side by 5, I must also do it to the other side by 5, or else my scale becomes unbalanced. So I'm going to do it to the other side. When you do that, these two 5s cancel each other out, leaving S by itself. Let me bring down S. Bring down equal sign. And then you're going to work out 15 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 2 is 75. So S should equal to 75. If you're not quite sure if 75 is your answer, what you can do is plug it back into the original equation. So here's the original equation. This is how you can check if your answer is right or wrong. I'm going to replace S with 75 this time, since that's what I got when I solved the equation. So you're going to replace S with 75. So I'm going to put 75 in its place. We call this substitution. And let's divide 75 by 5 and see if it does give us 15. If it does give us 15, I did it correctly. So here's 75 divided by 5. 5 goes into 7 one time. Subtract, you're left with 2, bring down 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times. And there it is, 15. So this equals to 15. And if they're both the same number on both sides, you did it correctly. If they're different numbers, you did your equation wrong, and start all over again and try to figure out your answer. Let's try another one. Again, your first step in solving an equation is to cut it right through the middle. So let me do that. And we've gone over this plenty of times. If you see a letter, any number, side by side with nothing in between, you assume that you're multiplying, and that's what you're doing here. 6a really stands for 6 times a. And just like in the previous question, what you're trying to do here is have a all by itself on the left side. So what we need to do is get rid of the 6. And just like before, we're going to get the inverse of what's going on. The inverse is the opposite of what the number is doing to the letter. What is 6 doing to a? 6 is multiplying a. So we have to do the opposite of multiplying by 6, which is dividing by 6. So let's do that. Divided by 6. But remember, think of the scale that I showed you before. If I do it to one side of the scale, I must do it to the other side. If I don't, my scale becomes unbalanced. So let me do it to the other side as well. So I'm going to divide this side by 6. When you divide this side on the left side by 6, these two turn into 1. And what is 1 times a? A. So we can just scratch it off. And you don't have to put 1a. You can just leave it as a because we already know you only see 1a there. And guess what? We have a by itself. That's what you wanted. So I'm going to bring down a. Now I'm going to divide 42 divided by 6. So let's see what we get from there. How many times does 6 go into 42? 7 times. 6 times 7 gives me 42. So a equals to 7. There we go. Again, you can check your answer, just like before, from the previous question, by substituting. So let's substitute. Let's see if it does come out the same number on both sides. Again, 6a means 6 times a. I'm going to substitute. I'm going to replace a with my answer that I got before. I'm going to replace it with 7. And we all know that 6 times 7 gives us 42. It comes out the same on both sides, so I did it correctly.